Why is it that so many of us find ourselves staring at our phones, waiting anxiously for that text to come through? You know the feeling, checking your phone every few minutes, wondering if she's lost interest, if you said something wrong, or if she's just busy. And in those moments of silence, your mind starts racing with possibilities, most of them negative. The waiting game. It's exhausting, isn't it? But what if I told you that this pattern isn't just frustrating, it's actually working against you? What if the very act of waiting, of putting your emotional state in someone else's hands, is precisely what's making the connection feel forced and the conversation stilted? Think about it. How many times have you crafted the perfect message only to be met with a brief response or, worse, silence? How many times have you felt that pit in your stomach when hours pass without a reply? The truth is, we've been approaching this all wrong. We've been taught that showing too much interest means appearing desperate, that playing it cool means waiting longer to respond, that whoever cares less somehow wins more. But relationships aren't games with winners and losers, they're connections between two people. And real connection doesn't come from calculated waiting periods or strategic text timing. So what's really happening when you're constantly checking your phone, waiting for her text? You're giving away your power. You're making your happiness dependent on someone else's actions. You're living in reaction rather than intention. And she can feel it. Women are incredibly intuitive. They can sense when a man's confidence hinges on their validation. They can feel when your interest comes from a place of need rather than genuine curiosity. When you're waiting anxiously for her text, that energy transfers into your conversations, even through a screen. I know because I've been there. I've sat with my phone in hand, checking it obsessively, crafting and recrafting messages, analyzing every word of her response. And you know what happened? The connections fizzled, the conversations died, the potential relationships never materialized. Until I realized something fundamental. My self-worth couldn't be tied to message notifications. So what's the alternative? What can you do instead of waiting on her text? It starts with a mental shift, a change in how you view yourself and your time. Because the solution isn't about some magical text that will make her respond. It's about creating a life so engaging that you're not waiting by the phone in the first place. Here's what I want you to do instead. First, reclaim your time and attention. When you're constantly checking your phone, you're not fully present in your life. You're living in a limbo state, half engaged with what's in front of you, half waiting for a digital validation. This divided attention makes everything in your life feel less satisfying. Your work, your hobbies, your time with friends. Instead, set specific times to check your messages. Maybe it's once in the morning, once at lunch, and once in the evening. Outside of those windows, your phone stays in your pocket or, better yet, in another room. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about respecting your own time and attention. Second, redirect your focus toward growth. The most attractive quality in anyone isn't their looks or their clever texts. It's their passion for life. When you're actively engaged in pursuing your interests, developing new skills, or working toward meaningful goals, you become magnetic. So what interests have you been putting off? What books have been sitting unread? What skills have you wanted to develop? What friends have you been meaning to connect with? Now is the time. When you pour your energy into these pursuits instead of waiting for a text, something magical happens. You start to feel fulfilled, regardless of whether she responds. Your happiness isn't contingent on her attention. And ironically, this independent happiness is incredibly attractive. Third, understand the psychology of scarcity and abundance. When something seems scarce, we value it more. When someone isn't immediately available, their stock rises in our minds. This isn't manipulation. It's human nature. By filling your life with meaningful activities and connections, you naturally create the healthy space that allows attraction to grow. You're not playing games, you're living authentically. And in doing so, you become more valuable, not just to her, but to yourself. Now, let's talk about the quality of your communication when you do text, because the content of your messages matters just as much as their timing. Most guys make the mistake of sending boring, predictable texts. Hey, how are you? What's up? How was your day? These messages don't inspire excitement or creativity in her responses. Instead, send texts that evoke emotion, spark curiosity, or invite her into your world. Share a genuine moment from your day, ask a thoughtful question about something she's passionate about, or make a playful observation that makes her smile. For example, instead of, "How's your day going?" try, "Just saw someone walking a pet ferret in the park and immediately thought of your story about your childhood pets." Any chance you've upgraded from hamsters to exotic animals yet? See the difference. One is forgettable. The other is specific to her, shows you were listening, adds humor, and gives her something interesting to respond to. Another key element. Don't always try to extend the conversation. Sometimes send a message that doesn't require a response, a funny observation, a photo of something interesting, or a quick thought that made you think of her. Then go about your day without waiting for a reply. This takes the pressure off both of you. It shows you're sharing because you want to, not because you're trying to extract a response. It feels generous rather than needy. Remember, authentic connection isn't built through constant contact. It's built through meaningful exchanges followed by comfortable space. There's also real power in occasionally being the one to end the conversation positively. When the exchange has reached a natural high point, don't be afraid to say, "Heading into a meeting now, but this conversation made my morning." Talk later. This accomplishes several things. It shows you have a full life, it leaves her with positive feelings, and it creates space for her to miss your conversation. Often, this is exactly when she'll reach out again, when you've left things on a high note rather than dragging the exchange until it loses energy. But perhaps the most powerful thing you can do is to genuinely become interested in her as a person, not as a validation source. When your texts come from curiosity about who she is rather than anxiety about keeping her interest, the entire dynamic shifts. Ask questions that help you understand her values, not just her schedule. Share thoughts that reveal your character, not just your availability. Create conversations that would be interesting even if they weren't leading toward a relationship. And through all of this, maintain your boundaries. If she consistently takes days to respond to thoughtful messages, don't keep pouring energy into the connection. Your time is valuable, and how someone communicates is a reflection of their interest level. Match her investment and be willing to walk away from connections that don't feel reciprocal. What you'll find as you implement these changes is that some women will naturally begin to double text you, not because you've tricked them with some tactic, but because you've become someone worth pursuing. You've shown that you're secure enough not to need constant validation, interesting enough to have a life beyond waiting for texts, and attentive enough to create meaningful conversation when you do connect. This isn't about playing games. It's about becoming a man of genuine value and confidence. And here's the real secret. Even if she doesn't double text you, you'll no longer be waiting anxiously by the phone. You'll be too engaged in your own fulfilling life to notice the delay. You'll have reclaimed your power, your attention, and your peace of mind. That's the true win. Not manipulating someone into texting you more, but becoming someone who doesn't need those texts to feel complete. So put down your phone, close the messaging apps. Stop checking to see if she's online or if she's read your message. Your life is happening right now, all around you, and it deserves your full attention. Build that life with intention and passion, and watch how your relationships transform as a result. The right people will be drawn to your energy, the right conversations will flow naturally, and you'll never again find yourself waiting anxiously for a text that may never come, because you'll be too busy living a life worth texting about.